Okay. So Ryan?
Are you Bako 7?
Oh shoot. Oh no, it's putting it on. Oh good God. It's an old yeah, that is me.
You like bacon? That's awesome.
Yeah, it
So
was
now it says live over there. That's good.
yeah. Oh God. Yeah, it's in a YouTube account I try not to use. It's all my old
So
old
that doesn't
things.
matter because we're just going to take that
Yeah.
video and I'm going to extract the audio out of it.
Sure. Yeah, no, but that's it. Yeah, it was my rugby
Okay.
nickname.
Okay, gotcha. So let's keep this. Let's get them over.
Yeah, I hit right where it says live up at the on the top right. I clicked on that when it had said like off air, and I clicked on that, and then it just started. Something started spinning, and eventually I got an option to start it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little. I'm gonna make sure though that I have the link to the stream of this so it actually exists. Um, just don't know which one is which.
Where are they?
Probably like who's this Bako 7 guy?
I know.
Um, yeah, I need to spend some time figuring that out. I'd like created this alias on my YouTube page, and yeah. Anyway, oh, where is this? I don't know which one we're in. It's called.
Oh, can you drop that link in the Voxer group forum?
Oh, yeah. Let me. Did you have their? We had. Did we have their? Can I just invite them through Gmail?
Yeah. You could grab it through the. They put both of them in that Voxer group.
Okay.
crh.christine@gmail.com. .christine@gmail.
Actually, no. Which one is Amy's? Amy's is
Amy's is STL
STO.
Presley, Presley.
All right, there we go.
I'm getting an echo. Are you getting an echo?
I'm not getting an echo.
Right now it's gone.
Let's check the.
Let me
Let me get
close
the.
the
Let
Voxer. Let me see.
me get the link to the live. Do you use the Voxer app on your computer?
Yeah, let me just close that.
Maybe I'll have to.
YouTube.
Maybe I'll have to check out the Voxer app. What do they call this one? Is there a name on here? Talking Social Studies. Okay. So.
Okay, they should be hopping in here. Let's get this. Nice if we had some rhythm and routine to this thing.
Something started spinning, and eventually I got an option to start it.
Yeah. What was that audio from?
Oh, sorry. I was just that's the live stream here. I'm gonna dump the link in our chat here. Let's see. So yeah, if you open the chat window on here, that blue chat window on the side, that's the link to the live stream. I didn't get an echo on there, so.
Okay. Where are they?
They said they haven't seen it. All right, let me just shorten this and give this to them in that Voxer group.
Did you put it in the Voxer thing yet?
You know what?
Isn't it just the? If I just put the link up here, would that work?
Yeah, that should. I was trying to get it. I don't use a Voxer app on my computer, so I was trying to put it back into my phone.
Would that work if I just throw in the Hangouts app?
I think so. Yeah, it should. I'm texting it to myself though. Let's see. Yeah, I need to. I'm gonna have to explore the Voxer app, I think.
That's weird. The message experienced an error.
All right, hang on. I think. Come on. I don't know if you're an iPhone or an Android guy, man, but I got to tell you what, my iPhone battery is just like.
How old's your phone?
It's iPhone 6, so it's not super old, but geez, it's like once the 7 came out, I think I saw your post on that. Didn't you tweet something about how their phones always get worse after they release? Or
yeah. So that link won't even go through in Voxer. That's strange. I keep getting this message experience an error. Where is the? Can I drop in that YouTube link, or that will not work?
Here, can you try this one and see if you can get? I'm gonna put it in that chat window and you can copy it in that Voxer group.
There we go. Let me try that.
I added their emails on here. Let's see if that works for them.
Hey, there we go.
There. Okay, so now just Chris, huh?
Chris. She's usually in right away. So how old, Amy? Amy, how old are your kids?
8 and 10.
Oh, that's a tough age to lose a puppy.
It is.
Sorry to hear that, Amy.
No, I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, what'd you say, 13 years old?
Yeah.
Someone's got some music in the background.
Oh, there's Chris. Oh, you know what? It might be a TV in the other room at my house.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm mobile now with a tablet, so I can go to a different spot.
Oh, so what was before? So you just couldn't hear us, huh?
Well, it was weird. I didn't change from the first call to the second, like what device I was on, but between the two, somehow my mic quit. My headphones. There was no sound whatsoever.
Interesting. Okay. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Is anybody else hearing an echo?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
We all got headphones on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Well, let's let Amy. She's going on some hunt, some hike, some deep recesses in Oklahoma. Look at that, deep in Oklahoma.
Yep.
All right. So, I think we got logistics taken care of. Sorry, everybody. This thing is just this ever-changing mess of something, and it's hard as you try to you want a product that's free, and it's not that easy. So, all right. Well, let's check out the show notes real fast. And I think we just kind of, it's taking us great. It's taking us 30 minutes. Wonderful. Let's just kind of like jump into this thing. We'll do our introductions and kind of rock and roll. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
Rock and roll.
Oh, I kind of lost my mic there. Is that better?
It sounded like you were in the bat cave for a second.
Sorry, I hit a button and I lost my sound again. I need to just sit still.
Okay. Does sound like something's in a cave.
Is that better or no?
Sounds like something moving. All right. How about that? That sounds. Boy, there's still an echo though. Do you guys hear it?
Not too bad, but
Yeah, a
Wow,
little
Chris,
bit.
you're really clear.
Chris is super clear. Yeah.
it's my $30 Logitech headphones.
Ooh.
Nothing but the very best.
I know. I do hear a microphone moving around. Is that anybody's?
That was me moving it.
Okay.
I'll stop moving it.
Okay. Okay. So, all right.
Nobody moves.
Once I start talking, I hear that echo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Let's just run with it. Okay. So we'll say hello. We'll get into it. Welcome to Tackle Social Studies. And then we'll just say this is the podcast, introduce ourselves. Hey, everybody. We'll talk about political cartoons. I'm fine if we don't really address the election. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, I'm ready to move on from that.
Yeah.
I think there have been plenty of
There has been.
post-election breakdown.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's really wanted to go there to listen to us. Well, let's mention it. Hey, you know,
I did include just a link to some of the misinformation article about like Google News and Facebook and stuff that's been coming out since then.
Yeah, the Huffington Post had kind of a cool one the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's kind of, I guess, loosely connected, right? I mean, it's where the conversation started, but I don't think it really gets into the details.
Okay, well, awesome. The last question: do we want to do the social studies today? I was wondering if it's maybe we're going too long. Do we just want to stick to our 2 things that we're doing? Because there's 4 of us talking about 2 things. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm good either way.
Yeah, I don't really care.
I'm kind of good either way, but it does seem like we all have some kind of real detailed stuff this time.
Mine's super superficial, but yeah, okay, let's do it. Stick with it, and then we also need to leave off with what we're talking about next time. I'm going to open up real fast the our planning guide here. And did anybody have?
Do you think we should do the social studies today? It's just kind of, I don't know, 30 seconds or so on each thing. Just kind of throw it out as a place to go to.
Yeah, super fast.
Yeah. Okay.
Super
That's cool.
fast. Okay, I'm opening up the doc about the ideas. Is there anybody dying to be able to do something for next time? In our topic bank, we have reading strategies, writing, note-taking, graphic organizers, visual, written primary sources, maps, virtual reality, games, art, project-based learning, digital storytelling, social media for social studies teachers, comics, music.
I think we should hold off on the games one until we talk to like Michael Matera and a few of the other guys that have those books out right now, because I think they jump in. We just need to
we
talk
had him
to
on. We had him
Yeah,
on that
just
list
get
there, so let's wait on that. So, other ideas?
Yeah.
Graphic. How about somebody should pick between maps, graphic organizers, or
Well, I love talking about maps.
maps. It is.
There we go.
Somebody had an opinion.
Yay.
All right. Next time we're talking about maps. We have Chris Heffer and Pete. Do we want to be able to see if get them involved in this next time?
Yeah, sure.
Somebody put them down as possible guests.
I don't know.
I can reach out to them if you want
Gotcha.
on Twitter and see if they're
Gotcha.
down with it.
The only issue is that anything past 4 people, it does get a little nutty.
Yeah,
And
well, one of us.
Yeah, I'm willing to step out of maps if to let them in if somebody wants to. If we want to go with that, but we'll talk about that later. Let's just address maps and we'll move on. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Using maps in the classroom. Let me put
Details
that over.
later.
Details forthcoming. All right. So here we go. Ready? Let's just do the thing. Get to the top. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. In
Let's do
3,
this.
2, 1. Welcome to Talking Social Studies. You're listening to episode 3, Political Cartoons, for November 15th, 2016. Music plays here. Hey, everybody, welcome. This is the podcast where we talk about all things social studies and education today. Here you'll find conversations about strategies, resources, ideas, and more, all designed to help today's social studies teachers impact their students. And we're talking about political cartoons. Let's kick it off with some introductions. I'll introduce myself. My name is Ryan O'Donnell. I am a technology, TOSA, and formal social studies teacher in Northern California, Rockland, California, and you can follow me on Twitter at Creative EdTech.
Hello, I'm Chris Hitchcock. I teach world history for a private online high school affiliated with Indiana University. You can find me on Twitter at chitch94.
Hi, I'm Amy Presley. I'm a history teacher at Broken Arrow High School near Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my Twitter handle is at STLNOK. You can follow the Talkin' Social Studies Twitter handle at Talkin' with an INSS, and then you can also catch our Google website.
And hey, everybody, I'm Scott Padway, former history teacher and TechTOSA in Pleasanton Unified in California. And you can find me on Twitter at Scott Padway. Today, we've got a fantastic show, and we're talking about political cartoons. And where that is, you may find those cartoons to really kind of dive into and how to attack cartoons and all things cartoons.
Because cartoons, I don't know about you guys, they're one of my most favorite things to teach.
Oh, I love
yeah.
using them.
They are fun.
One of the issues, though, I don't know if you guys notice this when we talk about it later, but is you find these political cartoons, and with the election just finishing, there is a deluge of just beautiful and just well created imagery that really sort of shows these events that have happened. And it's, I don't know about you guys, but you'd show these to your kids, and they often just don't get it.
Yeah,
I find that as well.
It takes real critical lens to understand the depth of some of those layers on those cartoons. So hopefully we'll have some strategies and can help you and your students with them.
Yeah, and so that's the agenda for today is basically two things we're going to cover in terms of talking about political cartoons. Is first off, how do you go in this crazy world of the internet? How can you go find political cartoons? For those of us who taught pre-internet day, we actually got like books, and you would buy you buy supplemental material, and they give you some cartoons to use or whatever. And nowadays, many people have just gone to the web to just go find your stuff, and so it could be a little daunting. So in today's show, we're going to talk about how we can go. Where we can go to be able to find cartoons and some strategies to be able to do that in terms of the acquiring them. And then the second piece, which I hope I'm really looking forward to having some conversations, is the what are some ways in which to get the kids to be able to kind of understand and comprehend? Because like we mentioned, it's a challenge about have them to be able to understand irony and other things like that. So, well, who'd like to kick off? Anybody want to go first here and talk about where do you go to be able to find some cartoons? Chris. I'm volunteering you. Let's have you go first.
All right. Well, I will be more than happy to jump in. Well, I teach world history, so my issue is trying to find political cartoons that come from a variety of perspectives. There's all kinds of great, fabulous archives of political cartoons for the United States, and I think we'll be talking about some of those later. And there's the British Cartoon Archive, which is fabulous, but what about some other perspectives? So in all honesty, generally when I'm looking, I use Google, and I try to put in some country codes so I can try to see if I can find cartoons from the particular country that we're studying. So for example, if we were talking about like the division of China into spheres of influence, there's a lot of great political cartoons out there showing kind of the United States perspective on the spheres of influence and, Uncle Sam standing in the middle of a bunch of other countries, kind of carving the dragon of China up, and British cartoons. But then, were there political cartoons from China's point of view? So that kind of thing is something that I think about a lot when I'm trying to find cartoons.
Real fast, can you explain for people who are unfamiliar with about country codes? Can you briefly explain what that is?
Yeah, so basically, if you're doing a Google search and you put in your search query, if you type in site, SITE, colon, and then if you Google internet country codes, you'll find a bunch of resources that will tell you a 2-letter code for different countries. And then you can put site, colon, the 2-letter country code, and that should then limit your search results to only results that come from that particular country. So that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the things my students have to find at least one source in each lesson for my online course, and that's one of the strategies that I give them to try to find some things from different points of view, not just always like the American point of view or a Western point of view.
I'm having a hard. Anybody else? I used to be able to do this, and I'm going to China, and I thought the China extension was Google.cn, but I'm trying to go here right now, and I'm getting nothing. I can go to other ones like Google.ca takes me to Canada.
I wonder if China's got their stuff
blocked.
Yeah.
Because the example I would use is I'd go to Google and type in Tiananmen Square and click on images, and you see tons of 1989 protests. And then you would go to the Google, China's version of Google, and you type in Tiananmen Square and you get nothing. You get a lot of pictures of Tiananmen Square, but nothing from the protests of 1989. Interesting. Yeah. The China one doesn't work. Huh.
Well, it's funny. I just Googled Google in China, and the first hit on there, not that you can always go by the first hit, is just titled "Why Google Quit China." I'm only going to tell history in the relationship here.
Yeah, because it still works with these other ones. I went to Google.fr, so for France, and that works. Google Canada, yeah. So interesting. China and Google, yeah, relationship is not so hot right there.
Looks like there's a breakup letter in the works. So anyway, that as someone else who also started teaching in the pre-internet days, Ryan, I know that I have political cartoons that I literally cut out of newspapers or copied on a copy machine and added to lessons that way. So I still have some of those that I have not been able to track down. I shared one in our show notes, so you might be able to go to our website and see it. But it's one that I always use when I'm teaching before World War I that shows Uncle Sam trying to cross the bridge to the 20th century or to the 21st century. And he is met on this bridge by a ghost of World War I.
Great cartoon.
So I always use that one. And I've never been able to find it online anywhere, really.
All right. Well, that's going to be my tip here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to try this, but you keep talking. I'm going to see if I can make this happen.
Yeah, reverse image search it.
And has that not worked for you?
I don't know. I don't know that I've tried that. I've just kind of searched for it in other ways, and even tried to decipher the artist's name and looked at the Miami Herald back-ish, archive or whatever. So I don't know what the deal was with it, but anyway, it's great because then we use it again when we get to the end of the 20th century and talk about whether those ghosts of World War I have ever been vanquished. Are we still dealing with the same, like if you think of those main causes of World War I, are we still dealing with those today as we get to the 21st century and, beyond? So anyway, sometimes you find some really great things not on the internet.
Yeah. The internet is, I'm assuming you guys are like me. You just find yourself going down rabbit holes of finding cartoons, and then also just like Chris, you just hunt and peck and try to be able to find some information about them.
Yeah, I know. You really can get lost, especially when you have people sharing links like these show notes. I'm just finding myself clicking to click and just exploring just some awesome new avenues that, didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I agree. Like 2 hours later, I'm like, wait a minute, there was something I was supposed to be finishing.
Yeah. Oh, well, interesting. Okay.
Well, I found, I teach in the last, 13 years. It never seems like this is the first time I've had more than 3 or 4 years with a course. So it changes. I'm always, where you look when you, depending on what you're teaching, does change. But I find myself continually going back to the Gilder Lehrman site, and kind of going through their archives. They've got a lot of great, just searchable. It's very teacher friendly. I know we've talked about them before, but political cartoons, they've got a whole kind of page devoted specifically to kind of some of the best US bend cartoons. But one of the neatest things I've experienced lately was, since my move to Tulsa, one of the few kind of full-time newspaper political cartoonists lives here in town, and his name is Bruce Plant. And his stuff for the Tulsa World, and then it is pretty awesome, and it's definitely like kind of pro education, so that's always a bonus. Mm-hmm. But some of his stuff's been kind of reposted in some major New York Times and overseas and stuff. But one of the things he kind of told me about when I met him at a AP Summer Institute a couple of years ago was this Association of American Editorial Cartoonists site. And at this site, they have this awesome, they have the cartoon of the day or the cartoon of the week, and both. And the cartoon of the week is encouraged. It's already built with like a newspaper and education lesson plan. And it's current. It's on topic to, kind of what's going on in the world for the kids right now, but yet it's kind of designed to help them decipher it. And then they also have an incredible archive there between the different political cartoonists that are involved, and how you can kind of search by topic. You can kind of see the big stuff that they've kind of voted on themselves. And it's the entire site is kind of designed for teacher use.
Oh, that lesson that they have on here is pretty awesome. This week's lesson.
Yeah, they're always pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's done. You've got something that you can.
I don't know if have we talked about this one before. I'm not familiar with Gilder Lehrman.
Oh, Gilder Lehrman, it's kind of up there. They work a lot with like the National Archives. Gilder Lehrman does a lot of work with presidential museums and libraries and such. But they do a lot of work. Well, back in the days of the Teaching American History grant.
Those were great days.
Yeah. Okay, so Gilder Lehrman was tied to that pretty hard.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, this is a really neat site. Yeah, and I love the it is asking you to be able to set up an account, right? But they do give free subscriptions if you're a K-12 educator.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, but if you head back down to that Association of American Cartoons, you can just get right into it. And questions, more links to explore.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole. You will find yourself.
Oh, I like that.
This is fantastic.
And it's worth talking to, if you live in a city that has some staff, political cartoonists. They are usually awesome about coming and talking with your kids, and they have a great, satirical sense of humor. So the kids love them for that. But then they really walk the kids through how to decipher and what to look for, and it's worth it if you can track somebody down.
I've never thought of that. I've had other speakers come in, but bringing a local political cartoonist from the major paper, that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I think that would be so valuable to actually hear from a cartoonist how they do what they do. I mean, totally giving you that whole other view, like from the creator, him or herself. I mean, as a student, I think that would be super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to mention it later in the strategies, because we often do that strategy of, hey, kids, go make a political cartoon, which often falls apart because it's a complicated task. To have the artistic ability, and two, to understand all those subtleties and to be able to tell a story in just one image. And so that'd be really interesting to be able to hear a person be able to talk about the process.
Interesting. Hey, I'm going to continue this conversation if that works for everybody.
Jump on in.
And I want to point you to two different resources. One that I love is the publication, The Week's cartoons. And if you're not familiar with The Week, it's publication that comes out every week. And they pull in little snippets of news from around the world. And so you can get a lot of different perspectives in there. And their cartoon page, you'll find just all sorts of current political cartoons from different publications. all over the place. So it's a great resource to find things that are, you know, happening today and this week and last week. Real current. The other I have on here is a little bit more historical. I was a U.S. history teacher, and Thomas Nast can be considered, you know, the father of American cartooning. And
he is, yeah, for sure.
He's got some amazing stuff. And this is just a Google image search to Thomas Nast's images, but you can see he does a lot of work specifically in the Gilded Age and about Boss Tweed. But if you're really looking for some historical cartoons for American history in the, you know, 1800s, Nast is your man. And it's definitely worth taking a look at some of his amazing work.
Yeah, to see kind of where like political cartoons, I mean, they existed before, but really sort of came to be a medium of their own with Nast.
Yeah, and he just kind of brought it to the next level. He really, I mean, I come back to Boss Tweed, but he really, you know, spoke for the people during the Gilded Age, and has some just pretty amazing things that just shed a light onto that time period and where the country was at that point in time.
Yeah, really cool.
That is very cool. And I just have to give another shout out for the week. That has been our father-in-law got us a subscription to it like years ago. And that's one that we always keep. It's just a great way to get information about current events from a lot of different points of view and places. It's awesome.
I'm going to be honest. I've never seen this before. This is really good. I don't know this. This is fantastic. I feel like I'm an awful teacher. Like I've never seen theweek.com before.
Oh no, the week's awesome. And they even have, I mean, it's going to get into what we're talking about next week, but they have a map in there that just has different countries highlighted from around the world and just little snippets of news that have happened. And it's just a great place to kind of dive in and get a conversation started about, you know, kind of a global perspective on things.
Well, that's fantastic. Great share, you guys. That's really good.
It is really cool.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back. I'm going to jump in and give my share about where to find cartoons, along with the modern day ones. I'm going to talk about Cagle.com, C-A-G-L-E, and similar to today, to this week that you said, Cagle.com. I just dropped the link in here too, so it's relatively a newer one. And when you click on cartoons, it'll bring you to a list of all of their latest cartoons that they have, and it's an aggregate, so it's not necessarily just one cartoonist. I think very similar to like what you had with this week, is that different cartoonists coming in here. And I also like that you can get international perspectives as well too. And there's a search feature in here, so pretty nice. That's one. Another. Have you guys not seen the Kegels before?
No.
You say Kegels, and I start thinking of something else.
Yes. Yeah, C-A-G-L-E is Kegel. So go quick because we've got a lot of stuff to get to. Another one is I got a great link here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but it's a link from the Library of Congress, which is such a killer place to go for so many primary sources. And I like just the title of it, The Ungentlemanly Art, Political Illustrations. And so this is a little bit of a history about political cartoons, going back to like what Scott was mentioning, to Thomas Nast and some of those earlier cartoons. And kind of walks you through not necessarily lesson ideas, but sort of a history and how cartoons came about and so forth. I got lots of them, so I'm trying to go really kind of relatively fast here. Next one is I just wanted to share my personal favorite from the World War II and the Cold War, a British cartoonist by the name of Leslie Illingworth. And Chris, you mentioned earlier about the British, just like Americans, the U.S., the British have such a great archive of their cartoons. And Leslie Illingworth is one of my favorite go-tos of his cartoons. Unfortunately, I mean, when you go to the website, you click on the galleries, and you'll see he's got them partitioned into different sort of areas. So he's got the Second World War, Cold War, space race, nuclear weapons, and they're divided up by those particular themes. And what's great about Illingworth's ones is well, first, I'm just a personal fan. I was a little frustrated that they don't have all of his cartoons on there because he's got so many fantastic ones. So I'm clicking on like the space race, and he's got some great ones about, you know, the Soviets versus the Americans. And so check him out if you're interested in looking for cartoons from everything from World War II to the Cold War. But I want to go back to what Chris mentioned before and about a Google reverse image search. And guess what, Chris? I failed.
Yes.
I failed.
Aww.
I tried, but it didn't work.
I don't know if it was just too old. It's like before they started like saving stuff online or something, since it was from 98, but
it was. Well, the one I was going to show an example of is earlier than that. Mine goes way back to the 1800 to 1902. But maybe your image just doesn't have as much presence, or it hasn't been shared as much. So for those of you, yeah. So for those of you who are not familiar with reverse image search, when you go to Google and you click on images, let me do that real fast and bring it up here. Google.com, click on images, and we're familiar with that. That's how I go find images. But in that search bar, there is a camera. And if you click on that camera, it says you can now search by image. And there's two ways you can do that. I can paste the website of where I found an image online, or like I did with Chris's picture, she put a picture in a document, so I saved it to my desktop and I uploaded it and said, okay, now Google, take a look at this picture and see if you can search and find out what it is. In her instance, I failed, but there's other times that you may find some success. And in our show notes, you can see what I did is I took a picture of a older political cartoon, if you would, and it's Uncle Sam standing up on some pedestal, and somebody is pointing to a wash of immigrants who are coming in, and there's no comments being said, but he's kind of given a, like, see what you've done. And on these immigrants who are coming in, it says Polish vagabond and Italian brigands, and basically negative terms for these Eastern European immigrants coming in. And I love this cartoon because Uncle Sam's given sort of a little angry but sort of confused look, and this other gentleman who's pointing to them all is given a kind of like, see, this is what I told you. And I wanted to find some information about this cartoon, so I basically did just that. I saved the image to my computer and then did a reverse image search, and I found the answer. And I found the name of this image, which was called Where the Blame Lies, and it's from 1891. And there's I found the credit for the Library of Congress. The person even talking to him is a real individual. He was one of the former Supreme Court justices, Justin William Strong, and talking about the influx of, and this is the rise of nativism and all that. And so I thought this is a great way for you to kind of be able to search. If you have those pictures or those images like Chris has, to be able to find the backstory to them a little bit.
And pro tip on that is if you're just online, you find an image and you're looking for the sources, you can right click on it and you'll get an option if you're in Chrome to search Google for the image, and it'll just shortcut some of those steps.
Yeah.
Sweet. That is awesome.
Yeah. So lots of places to find pictures out there. And we mentioned, I think Amy mentioned earlier, the rabbit hole, and we find ourselves going down those rabbit holes. I think all of us will agree is go down the rabbit hole. Take some time. I mean, that's where you find some interesting things. And remember, each time you find something, you find an idea, a resource, hoard that thing away. Be a squirrel. Put it away somewhere, because you never know when you're going to want to be able to use that back in a lesson, an idea, or something.
That may be a topic for a future podcast episode: curation tools.
Oh, I like that. Let's put that down. Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, let's jump into strategies. Let's say we got some pictures now. I got some images, or I got some traditional ones, because I don't know about you guys, but my problem was I have too much. I have too many images, but then I still find myself looking for more. It would drive me nuts. I'm like, I have plenty. Just don't look for more, but I would still look for them. Anyway, so now what do you do with them when you get them? Let's keep the same routine. Let's have you go first. What do you do with some images now that you got them?
Okay, well, I like to use the Library of Congress Cartoon Analysis Guide. And unfortunately, I don't know that there's a good order to put these in, that it spells out a word or something to make a mnemonic device, but I was thinking about that earlier today. But basically what I always tell my students and encourage them to do is to read any words that are on the cartoon, or numbers, that kind of thing. And so the Library of Congress calls that labeling. Does the cartoonist label something for you? And then identify any symbols. So is there a dove that stands for peace, or Uncle Sam that stands for the United States, that kind of thing. And then look for examples of techniques that the cartoonist might be using to make a particular point. So they identify 3: exaggeration. Are they making certain features more prominent, or making something larger or smaller than it normally would be? Sometimes we see this in terms of caricature, like with people's bodies or faces, but it could be something else that's exaggerated, like the size of, a part of a map, to show that it was a more important region of the country or something. Also analogy, and then irony. So basically, it's great because it gives the kids some like specific guidelines as far as looking for those things. And, you know, I think this is a great opportunity to really work in some of those cross-curricular things, because they're probably studying analogy and irony and possibly exaggeration, that kind of thing, as far as literary techniques, and to talk about those in relation to visual techniques.
That's a great point. Yeah, because I'm going to cover some of the same stuff in terms of another kind of a checklist. I never thought about like getting together with your language arts teachers and have those same conversations about irony and symbolism.
Yeah. And then so after you do that, then, you know, once you've kind of looked at those kind of elements of the cartoon, then really think about these bigger questions. You know, what was the issue that was being portrayed in the political cartoon? What's the cartoonist's position? You know, can you tell if the cartoonist was for this issue or against it, or if they were neutral on it? Why was the cartoon made in the first place? Was it designed to persuade? Is it designed to give a certain point of view? And then evaluate its effectiveness, which I think that's a great one. It's like, well, would you find this persuasive? You know, what could the cartoonist have done differently to make it more persuasive? And then I think from there, it can be a good opportunity to have the students look for cartoons that portray an opposing point of view, or an alternative point of view from the cartoon that you just analyzed. So you can give them those analysis skills, let them practice it, but then let them see if they can find some cartoons of their own that relate to that particular issue. So then they're getting that searching practice as well as the analysis activity.
Yeah, to be able to apply that, because that's that great critical thinking strategy. So if you've demonstrated exaggeration, right? Because we're talking about who knows what, you know, civil rights movement, you know, and now you take like, go look at some modern day election cartoons, because there's a mountain of them, right? And now to be able to find some ones that apply to exaggeration. Very good. Very good.
I'm out.
You're out. That's one of the things about doing the podcast. We're never sure like when the person's done.
Yeah. I'm going to follow.
Passing the baton.
Well, I'm going to follow Chris, because I'm going to second the Library of Congress and their analysis guide. Through Teaching American History grant and some other things, I've done work with a couple of different museums and libraries. And without fail, everybody goes back to that sheet because it works. When kids can kind of walk through that sheet, then kids have got it.
Hey, and just to interrupt real fast, but I'm looking at Scott's and I'm looking at mine. And although that we're both using different websites, we still have that same kind of idea. You have that checklist of idea, those things to be able to notice. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to pull yours up right now, but it wants permission.
Right, keep going, Amy.
I mean, as far as like having my own kids, my own students do political cartoons, diving in and doing the whole big cartoon is kind of hard. But I found that the History Alive has this kind of Janus figure activity, which oftentimes they don't understand what that is, and you have to kind of explain the whole concept of a Janus figure. But that kind of two-faced, two-sided, two-perspective kind of figure, and they get a kind of a roughed-in template of Joan of Arc, and then we go through and we kind of talk about perspective, and we talk about how you can use symbolism and imagery and all that stuff to create in a single image a story. And the kids build a Janus figure of Joan of Arc from the English and the French perspective. And it's a great kind of introductory activity because we can reference it throughout the year. We can reference, hey, remember when, why did you place that sword upward? Or why did you put it point down? And why did you make her face look mean with the eyebrows? And the kids, they get it. And they have a lot of fun, with it, because you can kind of talk your way through it while you're drawing. And it doesn't require a kid to be overly artistically inclined, because you can get your point across if the outline's already there.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And always a winner when it's stuff that the students remember and you can keep referencing throughout the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great ideas, great strategies there.
Well, I'm going to jump in. I am referencing a MindSparks editorial cartoon checklist, and I just want to give a quick shout out to the UCSB Teacher Ed program because I still use this for my credential program. And the link, it's a PDF you'll have to open up, but it breaks down a lot of the same categories that we've heard when you're looking at political cartoons in terms of issues, symbols, exaggeration and distortion, stereotypes, character, humor and irony, background knowledge, and the argument. And what's really nice about this is even if you don't use this with your students, or maybe you only use a portion of this with your students, especially if you're a teacher and you really don't know what it is and how to break down cartoons, it has lessons and really walks you through with some great examples for each of those. So it's a great way for you to, kind of step up your game before you go live with your classes. But it's also a great resource for your kids.
MindSparks has got a lot of good stuff. I used to use a fair amount of their things back in the day.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm not too familiar with most of the other things, but like I said,
so
I came across this.
Yeah, you can check out mindsparks.com, and they got lots of stuff. But by subject and by resources, you can look at U.S. world geography. They got debating documents, world history unfolding, lots of different sort of great products that they have to be able to help supplement.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll have to definitely link that onto our resources. The other thing I really wanted to share too with cartoons is just some sites to help your kids create them. Not everyone's an artist. Obviously, anyone can draw. Who can draw can create an amazing cartoon, but sites like toondoo.com or Powtoons will animate them. But Toondoo will give you just a 4x4 grid or something, and you can add in your own elements to it. But even using something as simple as Google Drawings and just trying to get those elements in, the checklists will walk you through, and really focusing maybe on symbols in this case, or just the exaggeration, and trying to build those in. But some great websites for it.
Yeah, I like Toondoo. Toondoo's nice. I've had struggled with Powtoons a little bit, just the interface. I love the premise of it. I think Powtoons can be a really great tool. I just haven't found it super user-friendly, for myself, and let alone the kids that I've tried it with.
I think there's definitely more of a learning curve on Powtoons, but actually I think the students really find it fun. I encourage you the first time to make sure you use a template as you go through. It just really kind of helps, and you can actually just go through something that they already have and delete their content for the first time. But as and then as you start becoming more proficient, you can really do some pretty creative things. And what's awesome about it is, since you can add in some audio, you can really animate a story rather than just making it a print cartoon that we're so used to. So it kind of elevates it, takes it to the next level.
It does. And we're going to have a whole lesson or a whole episode later on about what we call digital storytelling, about having kids sort of create their own stories with, from events of the past and the world around them too. So, awesome. Well, good shares, Scott. I like that. MindSparks. I forgot about them because they got a lot of good stuff here. And guess what? I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do the same things, which is exaggeration and irony and all of that one. I've used a different place, which shows that, hey, there's different flavors of soda. There's Coke and Pepsi and all that kind of stuff. And so mine's from teachinghistory.org. And you guys covered the base already, but the same ideas about irony, stereotypes, exaggeration. And so Chris mentioned it before too, and I've dropped in a link, and if you guys want to be able to check it out, it is sort of a step introducing the kids to this checklist. So much like what Chris said in terms of, hey, once I've talked about exaggeration, now you go find something. I flipped that originally on the front end, is I will find examples for them. And besides them kind of going down the road about what it really means, I just say, okay, here is a cartoon. And I'm showing one, if you guys want to look on slide 4 of that Google slideshow, and this is on the document as well too. So for those of you who want to check it out later from our website, you can. And I put a cartoon up here. So there's a cartoon of Christopher Columbus, and and they make him a school age kid, and he's sitting next to a Viking, and he's leaning over the Viking's shoulder, and he says, maybe I can just copy what he did and still get credit for it. And it says Columbus's early years. And so this is an example for my kids. Now I just say, okay, I'm only going to give you four of those checklists. Is this an example of symbols, distortion, irony, or a stereotype? And then have them discuss, and then we kind of share out. And then we say, okay, that's an example of irony. And irony is something easy to see, but it's hard to be able to label. And so I continue to go down that same road about things. Now show something with exaggeration, or so show something with the big one. It's a difference of a stereotype versus a caricature. Like if you show President Obama with large ears, that is not a stereotype. That is a caricature. I try to be able to tell the kids a caricature is what they do at Disneyland, right? When you pay the $5 for them to draw your face.
Yeah.
I think so. But I hadn't thought about it. I like what Chris had mentioned about flip it over. Now, okay, once they understood, and it could be multiple ones of them. So I got one here. It's on slide 11. If you're looking at it, it's of Joseph Stalin as an octopus, and this red octopus is taking over the globe, and the kids, we need them to know that there could be multiple examples. So this is an example of a symbol because the octopus represents communism, and this is a cartoon from 1938. It's actually a pamphlet, and it is taken over the entire world, but it's also an example of distortion because of how large it is. So it's a symbol of communism and a distortion. So are you guys able to get into that? Is that not working? Under strategies, if you want to be able to click on that link right afterwards, it says, here's my presentation about all of these, if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah,
anyway.
I got bounced out. I think it's just your permissions.
Oh, yeah.
I got in the second time, though.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, and then so that's the checklist idea. The second thing I want to do is I'm going to use all of mine in kind of Google Sites or PowerPoint or Keynote. But basically, if you're using a PowerPoint kind of program, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. So I'm going to take another picture and say, okay, let's have the kids add to the picture. Besides just being a cartoonist, let's be able to do, and this strategy is called create captions. And so I'm going to take a picture, let's say, here's a World War II cartoon of Czechoslovakia as a patient going into an operating room. And he's going into the operating room, and he's seen a bunch of doctors, but these doctors have giant knives, and they're labeled England, Italy, France, Germany. Czechoslovakia, it's got a shocked look on his face because, well, that's the question you're going to ask the kids. Why is he so shocked? Why would Czechoslovakia be freaked out that the people who were swore to protect him are ultimately not protecting him? So what I do in PowerPoint is I would simply just go into insert a shape, and instead of drawing a rectangle or a normal shape, I draw a thought bubble or a cloud. And so I draw that over the patient's head. Now you can print this thing, or you can share it with them one way or another. And then the kids now need to be able to add into that and basically say, what was Czechoslovakia thinking? Why was their reaction what it was?
Super cool.
And if you look at in the presentation that I shared with you guys, you can do this for tons of cartoons. You can do it for anything for the most part. You can do it for paintings. You can do it for, hey, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Put a thought bubble over each of the people's head. Tell us what they're thinking. And I love the idea about how to be able to annotate images. And so that's kind of a fun way.
This is a great slideshow too, Ryan. It's all ready to go.
Yeah, so steal this thing, please. And then the third strategy I had for this one was take a cartoon, and instead of necessarily tell kids, okay, create a cartoon, ready, set, go, here's the subject, it's the start of World War II, the U.S. involvement in World War II. And they're like, oh, okay. And they're going to hit that roadblock like we mentioned before. They're often not very good artists. Some kid's going to say, I have it written in my IEP that you can't make me draw or something like that. Because there's some kids who freak out. But anyway, so I don't have them just draw, but I have them say, I'm going to give you an existing cartoon, and you tell me what came next or what came before it. So on a slide in PowerPoint or slides or something, I simply put one picture on one side, draw a box around it, and put a space on the other side and say, okay, you have to use the same elements. So for the cartoon that I'm using here, it's actually a Dr. Seuss cartoon of a runaway Nazi train coming towards America. And America's a bit concerned, but there's a person next to America that says America first, and he's saying, don't worry, Uncle Sam, he's going to turn off because of we're going to say there's an appeasement junction. Don't worry, we're going to give in to the Nazis and we'll be safe. And so then the kids and I, we had the conversations about, the concerns that America had and what we were doing in terms of trying to be able to give in or be able to isolate it. Then the kids have to draw what came next, knowing about World War II, knowing that we were attacked by the Japanese. So what could we use? If I tell you have to use a train, you have to be able to say what came next. And you have to use Uncle Sam, ready, set, go. And the kids generally lend themselves to realize I'm going to draw a train track coming from the other direction, and that may be like a Japanese train that hit us because we weren't looking that direction, or other iterations of that. And so it gives kids the opportunity to do have some artistic creativity, but be able to continue tell the story either before or it could be what came before.
Yeah.
That's called what came next.
No, I like it. That's and it's an easy way to not only teach the elements that we've been talking about in these cartoons, but really to assess the history, content knowledge.
Yeah, good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the idea that tell them you got to use exaggeration or you got to use some symbols and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it gets them to cause and effect and all kinds of fun stuff.
Lots of fun stuff. So, hey, and as you guys are sitting here listening to, for those of you, and I know we have massive amounts of listeners, but those of you who do, if you've got ideas, please reach out to us on Twitter or so forth. And you could contact any of us and say some of the strategies that you guys use. We'd love to be able to follow up in upcoming episodes like, hey, we heard from so-and-so about some other strategies. So please reach out to us if you have your own ideas. All right.
Dramatic pause.
Dramatic pause, yeah. So now let's, any last comments about cartoons before we move on and wrap this thing up, everybody?
Can't think of anything.
No, I think I'm good.
Lots of good ideas. I feel very rabbit hole again. Like I got some things I've never seen before.
I know. Tomorrow we're all going to be on there.
Yeah, diving in and trying to find more stuff. So anyway, we wanted to be able to wrap up each episode with a quick little, hey, what's going on today? And we did the election is out there. We're not even going to rehash that. We did. I think we had a really kind of neat episode before about teaching the election. But let's all do a quick little 90-second shout out about what's something that's going on today that we can use in our classroom. Chris, what do you got?
Okay. Well, I just came across, I think, this blog post by or for Ed Week that Sam Weinberg did called "Why Students Can't Google Their Way to the Truth," and it was basically a little study they did with college students all the way down through middle school students and asked them to evaluate sources of information. And I will let you go to the source yourself to see what they found, but they kind of compared how the students dealt with the source to try to evaluate whether it was trustworthy or not versus what professional fact finders do.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, let's just say that the students, even the college students, did not do well. It's like, oh, well, this was the first thing that Google search results pulled up. It must be true.
There was a great article I read just this morning, and it was basically along the same things of like the clickbait headlines.
Oh, clickbait.
Yeah.
Real fast. If you don't know, Amy, tell us what clickbait is.
Oh, it's just the way it's worded or the image or however it's presented gets you to explore it, but it's not really what you think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a ton of that going around right now. And, in evaluating those sources, I mean, when MartinLutherKing.org for the longest time was white supremacist site number 3 hit on Google, and
crazy.
I mean, I've done some fantastic work with students in the past on media literacy, and I'm excited to kind of really dive into this article here. But I think that's a topic we've got on the topic bank for another show down the road is looking at, media sources and media literacy.
Hey,
I wish you could still do it, but go ahead.
I was just saying, Scott, MartinLutherKingJr.org, the white supremacist site, is number 7 now.
All right. Well, we're moving down slow and steady, I guess.
Do you guys remember, and it's been a couple years because I think it's been taken down, but the whole thing, I remember my own like digital literacy class back, when it was dial-up in school. But I remember being a kid and the teacher .com versus whitehouse.org. And
oh, yeah.
Woo, buddy.
That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, my social studies today is right along these lines. The New York Times article about Google and Facebook trying to take on some of the misinformation that's been shared, and it really looks like they're starting to tackle it through the angle of the ad revenue that some of these sites are getting. But it's just fascinating, and I'm not going to dive into it, but just a cool way to bring the discussion and really look at news sources and where kids get their information from. The other thing that's on there, just because misinformation and media literacy, I immediately think yellow journalism. I just wanted to share, it's a Sinking in the Main hyperdoc. If you were going to teach yellow journalism and the Spanish-American War, I'm going to add it to our show notes, but it's a all packaged, ready to go lesson for you.
Sweet.
Yeah, love the hyperdocs. Really sort of interesting lesson. What is it? Lesson
design,
I guess. That's been real popular the past year or so. From your folks in your neck of the woods over there, Scott, right?
I know the hyperdoc ladies well.
Yeah.
Again, we've got a list of shows coming down the road, and I think that'll be one of them too.
It is, yeah. So if check out hyperdocs, or you reach out to Scott, or just check online. You'll find tons of stuff.
Hyperdocs.co.
Nice, Amy. What do you got? Anything that we should check out? Any social studies in the today?
I honestly, it was just along the same lines. I was laughing because we all kind of went the same direction on just, having really the shocking amount of misinformation and misleading information that's out there, and really working with the kids about, checking the source. Even just looking at who's promoting it.
Mm-hmm.
And just,
For sure.
just the
Even
basics of where did this come from and why are they sharing it?
a simple Google search of the author, publisher, or something can lead you to their Wikipedia page that has more wealth than you'd possibly want to know about that person.
Yep. And also, remember, don't forget Snopes.com. If you ever somebody says, "Did you hear this amazing thing?" and you're like, "Well, let me check and see." Snopes is the best place to go for checking if things are accurate or not.
And if you don't follow them on Twitter, they're great.
I don't. I gotta follow them. I never thought about that.
Follow Snopes. They, every now and then I'll just you'll see the proved false, but just hearing what has been shared out there is kind of mesmerizing.
Hey, side note. Hey, how about for next episode, instead of talking about social studies today, let's do people or entities that we should check out on Twitter.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
all
social studies related. Let's all come up with like two things from social studies that we should check out on Twitter.
Okay.
Awesome.
Works for me.
Fun. I hate my quick one is I'm not going to get super political, but I've avoided news ever since November election day. I've kind of buried my head in the sand a little bit, and ignorance is bliss. I'll be honest with you. I've been binge watching some TV shows, and reading has been non-political. So the one I want to share out is I love how the history can be new, just fun stories. And this is a neat story about they found a painting. There's been a painting of Nicholas Romanov, Nicholas II. I'm sorry, no, it's a portrait of Lenin. And they were cleaning up this portrait of Lenin, and they're like, "Hey, what's behind it?" And they peeled behind because it looks like there's something behind it, and they found a gorgeous portrait of Nicholas Romanov. I mean, so one, it's really interesting about how artists would use the canvas, but now it's a two diametrically opposed people, and they're beautiful portraits, both of them. And so there's this article about these two different ones, and at the bottom of it, you can see the two beautiful portraits of Lenin and Romanov that were both on the same.
Oh, that's fascinating, right? What you want people to see in public and what you are hiding privately, in those political eras.
Yeah,
I order your death, and now I will have my face painted over yours.
And that's the thing that I always, as a history teacher, when you work with other people, they're like, "Oh, well, we need to, redo math and redo English." Well, social study, history, you don't need to, because history never changes. And you want to be like, "No, it does. It does. There's a lot of stuff that changes."
Well, yeah, and wasn't there a whole book or something about I'm sure there's probably more than one about like the missing commissar or something. It's all about like all the doctoring that was done under Stalin of photographs to get out, edit out people that he had killed and stuff. Yeah.
There's some great resources and videos about all that stuff about what Stalin did. He called it his second death, right? He'll kill you once and kill you twice.
But what would be really cool is I haven't taught that for a while, or like thought of that, but now in this age of Photoshop and how easy it is to edit, like even for some students, it might be really intriguing to go back and look at, okay, how did they do that back then compared to how we do that now? I don't know. Anyway,
right.
Cool.
And in that era, that's where that reverse Google search, the image search, is so powerful, because I've got a whole lesson on Hurricane Sandy photos that were just Photoshopped that people passed off as
Wow.
Wow. How do you deal with that? We've got more topics. Topics added to the list here.
The gold mine never ends.
The gold mine. Awesome. Anyway, everybody, hey, great fun conversation. Went down some rabbit holes. That was fun. And we got, what episode is this? Episode 3. It's in the can.
All right.
We're done. I had somebody new to podcasting. She reached out to me and she says, "Hey, by the way, when does it feel comfortable?"
Never.
We'll let you know if we ever get there.
Okay. I told her, I said, for my other show, I said, about episode 5 or so, we start to feel a little bit comfortable. But we got an interesting thing because there's 4 of us. So it does make it a little bit more, the dynamics a little bit different about, when to jump in and when not to.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. But anyway, hey, thanks, everybody. That was a fun show. And what about next time? Who wants to talk about what our next episode is?
Well, we're going to go down the rabbit hole in maps next week, and using maps in the social studies classroom, maybe throw you some tools to work in maps. And All
Maps.
things maps.
Maps. Dora the Explorer's best friend.
I was just thinking song on the map.
Sorry.
On the map.
The map. I think it was Boots the Monkey, right? No, then Map may have been number 2. Anyway.
Well, maybe we'll have to make a new theme song for next week's episode.
No copyright infringement. Sorry.
You're right.
This podcast has everything.
So we'll
Political
have to sing it.
cartoons, singing,
Dora
maps.
the Explorer. Awesome, everybody. Well, hey, thanks. This was episode 3, talking all about political cartoons. And like we said, if you got some cartoons back, please reach out to us. And you heard us refer to the website too. So check that the website out. We'll be posting that on the Twitter and stuff. And until next time, everybody, we'll check you out on Talking Social Studies.
Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.
Yay! That's done.
Woo!
Hooray.
It's getting smoother.